doing with the move queen d5, and I will ask the same question. Queen takes d5, knight takes d5. It's clear that Onishuk is prepared to jump down here with rook c2, posting up on the second rank, attacking pawn on b2 and pawn on e2. Well, guess what? With the simple move rook on e1 to c1, challenging the file, White's going to end up a pawn ahead for the rest of the game and in excellent chances to win. In case of rook takes c1, knight takes c1, we can see soon White's king is going to come to f3, cover the pawn on e2, unwind, be a whole pawn ahead. And in those cases where you can't give a modern-day grandmaster, you can't gift a pawn to a modern-day grandmaster without losing the game, I'm thinking that Onishuk's in real trouble in this ending, and that move queen d5 was just a brain spasm, a bad move.
Is it bringing you pain again?
A little bit, because especially Alex Onishuk, he's such a wonderful player. One of our best.
Always on the Olympic team. We also
always on the Olympic team.
We did get another question about the Olympiad team.
Yes,
and somebody asked, what if somebody who's already on the team wins a tournament? Well, then it actually just drops down by rating.
Yes.
So it's not like they go to the first person, the best result, by a player who's not on the Olympic team. It doesn't work that way.
Right, exactly.
So that's why usually it's not relevant. Because usually in the women's championship, Irina or Anna wins, and obviously they were in the team anyway.
Exactly.
And then in the championship, if Gata wins, or back when
Hikaru wins, they're on the team. They're stalwarts on the team automatically.
So it's not actually relevant.
And that's the point where Ray Robson, Sam Shanklin, Alex Lenderman, those guys are really jockeying for that 5th place on the team, and the U.S. Championship being one of the last events that count towards.
Akobe's not a lock, is he?
Actually, I think he is, because Timur Gariev has issues with visas and stuff of that nature.
Oh, okay, I understand.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think that Akobian, and of course if Akobian wins, then he's in. Just turning to one of our players in the open section, Lenderman in second place, shared second place at the moment, playing against the young Daniel Naroditsky. Lenderman has won a pawn, but it's not like one of the most beautiful pawns in the world to ever win. These pawns by White are doubled on the A file. This nice grouping of pawns here on c6, d6, c7. I actually like these positions very much for Black. I've played them basically my whole life, my whole chess career, and I don't mind giving up a pawn for these doubled A pawns. And although Lenderman at the moment has a material advantage, I think Daniel is actually doing quite well. And is Daniel behind Lenderman, or are they? What's the current standing?
Daniel is a half a point behind Lenderman, so they're both doing quite well.
Very well.
Lenderman with 5 points and Daniel Naroditsky with 4.5.
Well, if Daniel pulled off an upset and won this game, that would just be huge for his success to begin with. But wow, I like Daniel's position a lot. I think that he's doing really well. Just for argument's sake, moves like queen c3 are attractive. Another move I would find very attractive for Black is the move c6, c5. In the first place, that really limits this bishop on f2. In the second place, the move c6, c5 sets up for ideas like queen dropping back to e8 and picking off this pawn on e4, on a4. If Black can pick up one of those outside pawns on the A file, really good chances once again for Daniel Naroditsky.
Instead he went in for queen b2.
Yeah, I was going to say queen c3, queen b2, any kind of queen trade by Black, any queen trade for Black is going to be good for him. I was thinking queen c3 was one option, but queen b2 also is very attractive. Anytime that Black could force the trade of queens, he's doing well. I guess queen e4 is White's best move.
You want to just try to keep the ladies on.
I definitely want to try to keep the ladies on. And I guess that was one of the reasons why I didn't like queen c3 or queen b2. I liked c5.
Why you wanted to just protect that pawn first.
Right, c5. Now, I don't want to allow queen e6, but neither am I so attracted. I mean, rook takes a4 would be a horrible error, because then queen e6 check and queen c8 check, and suddenly the tables have reversed, and Lenderman would be for choice. So I think this move, queen e4, what am I missing, Jen? I'm looking at the move queen e4,
and you're just really liking it, yeah.
Well, it looks so intuitively obvious and attractive. You attack a pawn, you avoid the trade of queens, and you're setting yourself up for queen e6 check.
And the pawn on c6 is pinned to boot.
Yeah, so now there's no c5. Now, if you play a move like bishop e5, menacing bishop takes h2 check and bishop takes f2, well, queen takes c6 comes with the capture comes with a gain of tempo against the rook. So I am having a blind spot at the moment. I don't see exactly what
Meredith's plan is after this move queen to e4. Maurice, what do you think?
Well, in that position, it looks like you could play queen takes a2. I'll jump to it right at this line right here. You're saying queen to e4 could be played, but it looks like he could just take on a2. This check is not so dangerous because the king can move, and queen takes c6, queen takes a4, and the rook is hanging. So it seems as though you can't take on c7, and the queens are on a take here now. So I don't think there's much for white, maybe something minuscule, but it just looks like the pawns got traded on the board. Another position, though, I wanted to look at, Yaz, your suggestion, he did not follow. Ramirez in this position missed rook to c1. Rook to c1 would have been a huge move. Here, rook to c1. And that's a pawn. That's just a pawn. You can't get to the e2 pawn. If you trade on c1 first, then knight takes, suddenly grabbing that pawn on e2, and it's a pawn. I mean, he's going to have to work his tail off to try to prove compensation in this position, but certainly it's white for choice up upon having liquidated the biggest dangers in the position right there, which was the compensation that black had before he played queen check. I mean, look at this position. The pieces are huddled, bad knight, random, irrelevant bishop, and in the meantime, all these great pieces for black. How could a player like Onischuk play queen d5 in this moment instead of continue with the assault based on the compensation? Very stunning decision on his part, and anyway, it turns out that it worked out for him because his opponent played the move bishop to c1. And that's just, I don't get it. I don't get it at all how these two players are playing right now, because clearly now rook to c2, hello, hitting the e-pawn. Now this is a whole different kind of position with a different kind of compensation possible for black. This is what black was after. I'm not saying he's better or anything, but that other line, it was full compensation. He was probably better in that position. One game I want to keep you up to speed with is this game between Feuser and Nee. She did, in fact, ditch the rook, did Feuser in this position after bishop to h3. She played g3, knight takes on d3. Not necessarily optimal, but still, an exchange is an exchange is an exchange. And black looks like this game will eventually be won, although yesterday we saw her up 2 pawns against Abrahamian, and she did not win that game. She won a pawn in like 12 moves or so yesterday, so we'll see if her confidence is high. One game we are not paying too much attention to, but could be important on the women's side, is this one between Eswaran with the black pieces against Abrahamian, who's only a half a point away from Irina Krush and only a point behind Anna Zatonsky. Naturally, if Anna Zatonsky loses and Abrahamian wins, suddenly she jumps quickly into a half a point behind the leaders. She's only actually, sorry, she's a point and a half behind Zatonsky right now. So if she wins, she will be a half a point behind Zatonsky and still in the running with a minuscule chance of doing something in the tournament. However, the young phenom has given her all that she can handle in this position, because there's not much, there's a smidgen maybe of an advantage for white here because of this problem pawn on d6. But the youngster is way ahead on the clock. She's been on the clock, ahead on the clock in just about every game, win or lose. 47 minutes to 19 minutes. And Abrahamian has only played 22 moves, and she desperately needs to win. A draw virtually mathematically eliminates her from being able to win this tournament. Not 100% so, but it will take a miracle for her. The over and under on that, I don't even want to say. Maybe she'll have like a 6% chance of winning the championship if she draws today, because the players in front of her would be an issue. And finally, I saw one more position. Yes, key position for us. This one here, take a look at how this transpired after bishop to e7. Yes, queen g3, a6, bishop to h6, bishop to f8. You were saying about extra moves being played by this bishop. It went to c5, it went to e7, now it's going to f8. The refusal to trade it, and all of a sudden the bishop is back on the g7 square where we thought it should have been after the move g6. Robert Hess was mentioning that as well. And now h4, and it looks like Sam Shanklin is thinking, I want a piece of this guy. So he's playing aggressively, and Varuzhin Akobian a bit nervous now. And guys, look at the clock times. 50 minutes to 11 minutes. It's only 19 moves played. Our leader has to make 21 moves with 11 minutes left on his clock. The opening just started. It just started. So he is definitely going to be in a lot of trouble. Even if this position is essentially a little bit better for white, he's going to be in a lot of trouble, even with the 30-second increment, trying to keep this position level with himself down to 11:36, 20 moves to go. Terrible situation for the leader.
And he just played bishop to f8 actually after h4. So he's just moved his bishop yet again. And I was saying Varuzhin Akobian is so cool and collected, but is he cracking a little under the pressure of leading the championship by a full point?
Yeah,
it seems like it.
It does. It really does. And it's always like when you're that close to victory, things start
unraveling.
Going wrong.
Speaking of which, Asha Zatansky's woes are also seeming to increase against Irina, both on the clock and the board.
And bishop f8, that is one move I really don't like.
You don't like moving your bishop 8 times? No, I'm kidding. 8 times.
5, 6, no, it's not really high.
Because,
I think that
Maurice said the opening is only just getting started, and by your definition of the opening, the queen needs to
for white
develop in order to connect the rooks.
White's opening is over. Black still has to get out of the opening and connect his rooks, right? So he's at least 2 tempi away from that.
2 after bishop
yeah,
f8?
well, you've got to you got to castle and move your queen.
Yeah.
So I mean, for sure, when Sam essayed the move h2 h4, he was thinking, hoping that a move, he was probably calculating a variation that might run as follows: h5, bishop f4. And it's clear that white is trying to increase the pressure and build up an attack on the king side and try to do a rover and all of that goodness.
But not that easy.
It's not that easy at all.
Black has some defensive resources, because if you try to pull too many of your forces over to the king side, then the e5 pawn might fall. Right. So probably Akobian should have tried to just suffer the storm.
Right, but okay, castles. The second alternative move for Akobian was likely h7, h6 in order to meet the move h5 with g5. Var probably looked at this and found something that he didn't like about a bishop sacrifice. Bishop takes g6, queen takes fg6, queen takes g6. So white sacrifices a bishop for 3 pawns. That king is looking not so healthy, and rook d1, and that could be a 4th pawn. So Var calculated this, probably decided he didn't want any part of this variation. So he came up with a move that really looks a little desperate to me. He dropped his bishop back to f8 and said, I still have a solid position. It's very hard for you to beat me. But it has echoes of his game with Gariev. Remember, against Gariev, he played poorly, queen g5, had to pull back his queen.
And he maintained his confidence. I mean, but honestly, this looks even worse than that. I think that one looked bad, but this one looks worse, especially with the clock times.
Yes, that definitely doesn't help. So Sam Shanklin giving the tournament leader all he can handle, and
who seems to be cracking a little bit. I mean, h5, by the way, we do have 2 more moves. h5 and bishop e7 have appeared in the board, but I mean...
Guys, that's insane. Really? That's crazy. He played bishop c5, bishop e7, bishop f8, bishop g7, bishop f8, bishop e7. I mean, the laws of chess say you should be getting mated now. I mean, it's just, there's no way this can be right. No way in the world. If he survives this, I mean, how solid are these Caro-Kann French structures that you can play 6 moves with your bishop while the other guy is making moves like h4, h5, bishop f4, put a rook on e1, and you're like, you know what, you can have as many moves as you like. I'm going to still be okay. No way. You know Sam is thinking, mate,
okay.
I'm going to kill you.
Okay, the
Absolutely.
position, the position is closed, so you're allowed a certain amount of rope.
6 moves,
But,
though?
but
6?
no. That is excessive. Still, white has to win and prove the fallacy of what black has done. I think he's going to start with a move like bishop h6, and in case we see yet another bishop retreat, then finally queen f4, and white is going to try to make inroads on the dark squares on the king side. I definitely don't like Var's position, but again, there are a lot of resources here, and our tournament leader is going to be doing his best to save the game.
Sam took another route and noticed that black, being so far from castling, wants to perhaps open the center. So he played a rook to d1, hinting at that idea c4, which, by the way, you mentioned as being the main line earlier in the opening instead of c3.
Right.
Var quickly played knight to a5.
Wow.
To just prevent c4, but again, a very passive type of piece. Maybe he can go knight c4, but for the moment he's letting go of his hold on the e5 pawn. And I also wonder about a kind of move like, I guess, a kind of move like queen h3 at some point, just threatening the blunt takes on g6, especially with all of these pieces kind of diverting.
Well, you always like that when you're building up an attack on the king side and your opponent dances with his pieces off over to the queen side. I am really shocked by the move knight a5. All the action is taking place in the center on the king side, and you're playing positional niceties like knight a5 to prevent c4. I think Var is setting himself up for a big fall in this game, and if he saves this game, I will be really stunned.
You think it'll be a miracle? So
really
we have to start checking even sacrifices here. But I guess for the moment, they don't seem like they're quite tough enough, because if we take 3 times on g6, king d7, or as you point out, rook g8 is also a possibility.
And this, I think, Var would be very happy with, because at least he's got some material in his pocket to go along with his suffering. At the moment, he has no material in his pocket, and white has all kinds of ways of increasing
the advantage without risk.
Exactly. You mentioned queen h3. Again, I just kind of...
You like bishop h6, I understand.
Because it's so forcing.
g5 could sometimes come into the position if we play queen h3. Not that it's good, but maybe just kind of like trying to close things down a little bit. I mean, black's position's still not good.
Right, but it might be in black's favor that he at least does get to close down one diagonal, but another diagonal is open.
So sure, you can castle, but at least you've closed the lines a little bit, the direct lines. So I like your move, bishop
but white f4, I mean, it's just, I just love it for white.
Could we note, though, guys, just quickly, look at the situation right here. He got it from the board. Put the camera back on the players. He's away from the board with only 11 minutes left on his clock.
What
I mean, incredible that Jacobian went to do what? I don't know, but right now,
sometimes Mother Nature calls.
Indeed.
Well, he knows that he might not get another chance. That's sometimes what happens when they get down to like 11 to 15 minutes. They say like, this is my last chance to use the bathroom, because after that, I'm in my seat till 5 o'clock or I lose.
And look at that. Shanklin wants to move. He wants to move and take advantage of those precious seconds with his opponent away from the board. But that could be a problem too when you're up on time this much. You don't necessarily want to move too quickly. You want to really study how it is you're going to increase your advantage. If you start falling prey to the other guy's time pressure, you sometimes make suboptimal moves. So Sam has to get his head clear. He's got a lot of time. The more you think, the worse it's going to be for the guy to solve problems that you set for him.
Right. I totally agree that that's a trap that you commonly see people fall into, but I don't think Sam's going to have that here, just because the position's so juicy. He's going to want to find the best move here.
Exactly.
I believe that he's not. I think it happens a little bit more when the position's like kind of equalish. You're hoping that maybe you can flag them because you might not win another way, but here the position's so dominant. I don't think he's like, oh, let me try to you know, get VAR down to 9 minutes and play a quick move.
No, I only learned from painful experience. I played Walter Brown so many games, and in so many of those games, Walter Brown was in horrendous time trouble, and I got caught up in the thrill of the moment, believing that I was going to push Walter over on the clock, and I rushed some moves, and you know, he punished me because he would just outplay me in his time trouble. It was like he played better with less time on his clock.
Right.
And so it's only through painful experience.
Mr. Six-time
U.S. champion. It's only through painful experience myself that I learned that I have to still use my clock and don't get caught up in the pressure of the moment.
But Sam did make a move, so he is playing rather rapidly. Although, to be fair, he does only have 44 minutes for 20 moves, so he wants to ration a little bit himself. He played queen to g4, so now it looks like pawn takes g6 might be back in the menu, with the idea that now the e6 pawn is hanging as well.
Exactly.
So this tactical idea, do you want to take a look what happens if knight c4?
Sure, knight c4.
There's another idea in some lines that we could play.
Okay, but one at a time. hg, hg, bishop takes g6.
Well, as you mentioned earlier, we also have to look at rook to d8.
Right. I think that's the move that kind of dissuades you from the sacrifice, because if you can post up with your queen on e6, well, great things are simply happening for white. Black's king position is collapsing. But that rook g8, that might...
Yeah, queen takes... Well, queen takes... if queen takes e6 now, rook takes g6, and you know we would love this if we could play rook takes d5, but all of a sudden our queen is hanging.
Exactly.
Now, to be fair, white has some compensation in all these lines, but white wants the killer blow.
Right.
We don't want compensation. We want to win.
Well, the blow I'm thinking about, bishop f7.
If I may,
please.
Just a moment on that camera again. We just saw on the camera VAR about to move, and then he shook his head, just seemingly felt like he was about to make a mistake, and then he pulled his hand back. That was just a quick second, a quick flinch on his part, and he seems really, really nervous, and you can see it already. He has only 9 minutes and 30 seconds left on his clock, and he's starting to feel the pressure, and Sam is just kind of sitting there like, I got no problems. I'm just chilling.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, he doesn't have the U.S. chess championship on the line, though. He might have an Olympiad spot on the line.
Might. But I remember what Gadakamsky was saying to us in an earlier interview. I think it was against Josh Friedel or somebody who he was just about to make a move, and a second he just saw that there was it was actually against Lenderman.
Yeah.
That he was hanging his e5 pawn, and some like seventh instinct took over, and he made a move.
Well, one thing is that if knight
probably
c4,
the same thing happened to VAR just now, a moment. Okay, but he has played knight c4, by the way, and I'm not really...
Which conveniently threatens knight takes b2,
it
because
does.
I was thinking that like if Shankland could just play b3 and c4, that might be very attractive, but after knight to b2, we don't really want to lose that light squared bishop for no reason. We want to really have something concrete for that.
I thought that the move queen g4 was, you know, preparing these sacrifices. Well, okay, queen g4 is queen g4. Now the point is the knight b2 is really annoying, so I think white has to take out the tempo to defend his pawn on b2, but I do like what you just said, Jen. If black was to play a poor move, I'm just going to throw a poor move on the board. Apologies, that's not what is going to be played. But then what you're saying is there is there's a b3 c4 blasting open the center.
Switching sides, because now like the problem is not only that we have this king side attack, but also that your king is in the center.
And the d file might just be, you know, prized open, and so that's another problem. So problems are building up for our tournament leader, Varakobian, and really he's going to have to find some really excellent moves to save.
I don't see it happening.
His position.
I think that this one is going to be very likely a loss for Varuzhin, although he is a fighter, and we're going to keep a close eye on it. I'm not too optimistic about his chances here, which actually is going to be really exciting for the viewers. A lot of them are big VAR fans, but that'll just blow the championship wide open. Now,
including Nakamura.
How about Irina Krush, Anna Zakonski? I mean, I thought that Irina Krush's advantage was just actually increasing. I mean, it looks like Anna's put a pawn on e5, and all of her pieces are totally passive. I mean, this is really a shame because it shows the problem of psychology and mental game and life and chess and so many things that Anna knew the psychological problem, right? She said it to us that you shouldn't go into the game trying to play
Thinking,
for a draw.
I
Can't
have
do
to
that.
draw. Yeah.
She said that about 4 times on the air. She knows this concept backwards and forwards, and yet just knowing the weakness does not mean that your subconscious isn't going to take over and basically play that way, which looks like what she's doing. I mean, look at her, the passivity of her pieces. Every single piece in a passive position. It's just maybe she thinks this is the best way to defend, but it's the opening choice, as you mentioned, and everything. You can't help but think that that specter of a draw winning her the women's championship didn't enter at least her subconscious mind.
Absolutely. She sees the defensive, and she has a real problem in this position. Let's just go back a few moves to see how Irina was able to increase her advantage. She did that in the simplest of ways. She developed her pieces. She played after f3. There was a trade, bishop d6, bishop e3. Just develop your pieces. That's all you got to do. Knight came to d2, pawn to e5, rook d1, king e6, rook c1, king d7. Obviously, Anna is super, super happy with the repetition. Irina wants no part of that, played knight b3, and is really focusing on this backward pawn, the split pawns, c6 and a7. Basically, Anna's being hogtied at the moment. And White can do very nice little moves, a2, a3, b2, b4, and there's little, if anything, Anna can do. And for worse,
Irina did play such a little move. She played king to g2. Actually,
just a little move, just to improve the position. Everything's. How on earth is this knight on b6 ever going to get into the game? It's on a terrible circuit, can't go to the d5 square, can't go to c4, can't go to a4. c8 as well as d7 are occupied, and that knight is a spectator in this position. So
normally this is just a miserable position to play. The only thing Anna can be happy about is that if she does heroically manage to hunker down and draw this position, that the reward is pretty high.
Yeah,
it's not just a draw. It's not just any random draw. It's a really, really big draw. She's also behind on the clock, so we'll keep a close eye on this. And of course, our Shankland-Akobian game, the key games for the standings. We are going to take a little break and be back just in time for the exciting time pressure here at the U.S. Chess Championship. And while we're gone, why don't you pretend you're Fisher yet again? guys, and welcome back to the 2014 U.S. Chess Championship and U.S. Women's Chess Championship. I hope you all found rook takes c3.
Obviously, with the idea of rook f3 check and queen f2 mate, you can't take the rook because of queen f2 mate, and that was how Fischer defeated Unzicker with the move rook takes c3, threatening rook f3, winning a pawn, and white was toast.
That's right, and pawn takes c3, queen to f2 mate. Taking advantage of that rook on the second rank.
Exactly. But I really want to get into the games.
Yeah, because time pressure is mounting.
Yeah, and this game between Gade Kamsky has befuddled me. You know, if you give me a 6-digit number and another 6-digit number to multiply, I'll pick up a calculator. But I really like Gade's position very much. He has just played the move e4, e5. Protecting this pawn on c3, but this move e5 just closes black's bishop on g7. In my view, the way I look at chess, once Gade plays bishop d4, comes down with his rook to c7, activates his king, activates this rook over to the queen side, I think white is just for choice, yet the computer befuddles me by saying black's position's not that bad and that Mac is actually doing okay. So I'm just very, very confused by the computer's assessment, as I really like Gade's position, and this is a crucial game.
Computers are great defenders, so sometimes a position that could practically be very difficult for a human to defend, a computer knows all those nice little twists and turns to make the draw. So that could be part of the reason that you both could be right.
And Maurice, you got some something to add to that. Maurice.
Yes, Yaz. Your instincts in this position are correct. In this position, at least, it looks like certainly white has something of an edge, starting to milk it a little bit. But this position is probably, as important it is for the standings, it's more important this one, Shanklin versus Akobian. Akobian has only 2 minutes and 14 seconds left to make 9 moves, and here the computer's assessing that he's busted. That just cold cut busted. Nothing to do about the pressure that's growing on this side. He's just played the move g5, and the computer in this position is giving the move h6. And man, this kind of position, look at this monster piece. This pawn is always hanging. This powerful position on the f-file. This looks horrible for black, and he is at 224 and counting down. I'm not sure if Sam did play this move h6. Let's just go back and refresh the position, and it looks as though
Sam's thinking now.
It looks as though he has not moved as yet. But guys, 2 minutes and 38 seconds on the clock, and yes, the computer thinks h6. Actually, rook f3 wasn't even the perfect move, but there were a plethora of choices for white. White's pawn structure is great. Black's pawn structure is terrible. Black's down to 2 minutes and 38 seconds. He's got to make, actually, he has to make 12 moves. My apologies, it's only move 28. 12 moves, 2 minutes and 38 seconds. Yes, he has the increment, but the worse and much worse position, the leader in trouble. And if Kamsky can pull off a win in his game, they'll switch places, won't they?
Or they'll be even. They'll be tied.
Or they'll be tied with a draw. So Akobian, and having to face Kamsky tomorrow, this is the worst time for him to have a hiccup in the championships. But it's still not over as yet. So he's going to have to fight like a beast to try to save this game.
That's right. And Kamsky and Lenderman both have a chance to catch up to Varuj and Akobian if they win today. And if Varuj loses, do you want to see how did this happen? We obviously loved. Last time we checked in, Varuj and Akobian had just played knight to c4, and you were suggesting rook to e2, which was played. And we were discussing how the ideas of b3 and c4 were coming on strong. So
exactly. So knight c4 was the move. Rook e2, defending the pawn on b2.
And
then came queen b6. Putting more pressure on the pawn on b2, Sam said, I can deal with that threat by dropping back with my bishop, protecting the pawn. Queen came to c7, attacking the pawn on e5. Queen g3, defending the pawn. b7, b5. Still, VAR has not solved the problem of where he's going to keep his king.
But actually, this is kind of an instructive moment because, you know, now white needs to figure out, how do I increase my advantage? And he did something that we talk about a lot in the show, the rover, the rook up and over. He determined that he needed to bring that rook on d1 into the game. The rook on e2 is already doing its job, right? It's defending e5.
And that's exactly what he did. He did play rook d3, rook d8, a little bit surprised by rook f3, probably.
Well, I guess now he's thinking that he's threatening takes on g6. Is that right?
Well, certainly sacrifices galore on f7,
or take
on
g6,
g6,
and then take on f7, yeah.
and g5, and h6 is simple. Sam that's definitely the high on Sam's wish list, because then he's got this little creepy crawly idea of queen g4 to h5, targeting f7, and that's really the crux of the weakness in black's position. So I'm expecting h6 right away. Sam is thinking over his decision, wondering, I mean, is he really considering the move bishop takes g5, which just walks into rook f8? Maybe, let me just see what he could be considering. He could be considering bishop takes g5, rook g8, queen f4, targeting f7, rook takes, queen takes. Now, he knows he's going to get another pawn over here, but why go in for that? After king d7, I would just play h5, h6 and say, okay, it's your problem. You start looking at all my sacrifices. And with only 2 minutes on the clock, I mean, Var's a great grandmaster. He's a
so
really...
So you feel h6 is basically forced because you don't want to let black play h6? Is that
Precisely.
why?
That's
I
precisely.
see. So you're thinking that Sam's like making an impractical decision here to even think about it.
Precisely. h6 artificially isolates this pawn on g5. It's a constant weakness in black's camp. And again, I'm seeing this queen f, queen g3, g4, h5 idea. And I just think the tournament leader's in deep, deep trouble.
Guys, I'd like to also point out, I love this situation when I'm up on time against somebody who's worse, significantly worse on time. To me, the strategy here is, even if you see the move h6, don't play it that quickly. Let him suffer a little bit. Psychologically, he feels the pressure. He's looking for a move after h6, and it's feeling worse, and he knows none of his moves are any good, and he's just staring at the board, and you just let him suffer a little bit and feel even more pressure. That's if you play h6. In this position, there's even the move b3, mind you. b3 is interesting because this move, knight takes a3, is not the move you want to play here, because after this capture here, guess what? In this moment, bam, the g5 pawn is hanging, and now black's position has just fallen apart. The f7 pawn's in trouble, the h7 pawn's in trouble, everything's going to happen here. So b3 is a viable alternative in this position, forcing the knight b3, forcing the knight to go further on the queen side before you play the move h6. So that could be a move as well that Sam is thinking about. Tantalizing possibilities for white with black in so much time pressure. I can't imagine the tournament leader saving himself from this position right now. And it's really up to Sam to stay cool. Just stay cool. Even if he's going to play h6, just remain calm and relaxed. The other guy is feeling the tension. If we could put a monitor on him right now, no doubt his heartbeat is racing like 130 beats a minute right now. So he just has to stay cool and let this come to him, because I feel like there's going to be more blunders that his opponent will make. He doesn't have to force the victory home at all. Just let his opponent make the mistake. One calm move, another calm move, the blunder will happen.
Yeah,
Guys?
Sam Shankland just kind of
Enjoying the moment. And that move b2, b3, which you said, chasing the knight away. It's a good move, no question about it. But one of the things about when you play the move, you can always play the move b2, b3, whereas the move h5, h6 is always going to be useful. We spoke about this bishop on c2, eyeballing that pawn on h7. Imagine you win the pawn on h7. Well, what do you want to do? You want to race with your h-pawn home. So h5, h6, getting one square closer to the promotion square. That's, for me, an automatic. Truth be told, I'd spanked that move down a minute and a half ago.
Yeah. Let's take a look at our other potential trailer, Alexander Lenderman, who can catapult, or leapfrogger rather. So our other potential leapfrogger, Alexander Lenderman, he's playing against Naroditsky, and he had just played the move queen to f4. We don't have to look at how it happens. It's kind of in time pressure, but like king g7, and now Naroditsky kind of tactically defending against this d6, it seems.
Why is that? So if I take,
Well, I was thinking I might be able to play after takes, bishop to e5, but then you probably play bishop d4.
Okay, well, bishop e5 is probably a better move than what
Now
I just
you
looked
do
at.
have bishop to d4 here, but then I have the move just c takes d6.
Bishop to d4. My queen is attacked, but my queen cannot be captured because the bishop's in an absolute pin. And after c takes d6, we're at 3 versus 3. And Daniel, well, Daniel's slightly worse in this position. Probably not too great an issues, but still Lenderman for choice in this particular position.
And this did happen.
It did happen.
So we got queen to c takes d6 followed by bishop to e5.
Right.
And yeah, I don't see any tactical shots for white. We do have some potential in-between moves like d7, but nothing really seals the deal here. So I think he's just going to have to go for the slight edge, as you mentioned.
Right, right. And turning to Gadacamps's game, also on wow, something very strange happened. We had left it at the moment after e5, and after e5, Mac played f7, f6, not a move that he really wanted to play. Gada brought his rook over to h1, a move that I've been jumping for. Takes, and e4. Still big trouble here for Mac in this position. I see this rook. I just have to make sure I don't give too much counterplay against my own king. But I was just looking at this move rook to c7 with the idea of rook takes e7, and 2 rooks on the 7th rank could spell big trouble for Mac Molnar. And Gadacampsky looks very satisfied. When he's got that arms cross kind of look, it's a tell. And he's basically saying, I'm in command of this game, and he's looking very good. Again,
now, in our Irina Krush game
yes.
versus Anna Zatonski, let's take a look at the size of her advantage. So earlier we had a pair of knights on the board, which was kind of sweet for Irina, for the knights.
Exactly.
But at the same time, she's traded off a pair of knights, but looks what's happened. That black bishop on d6, extremely passive. Irina now is playing against 2 weaknesses, the pawn on c5 and the pawn on a7. We talked about that whole principle of 2 weaknesses, and honestly, it's really like there's a 3rd weakness in this position, which is the pin, the potential pin on that bishop on d6, which can happen in 2 ways because the rook on a6 the rook on a4 could come to a6, and also that's something that Anna's going to have to watch out for as well. That it's not going to be so easy to keep all of her forces in line. Like for instance, I'm just like looking at lines where rook to d1 and rook a6 both come in.
That would win a pawn. I'm not sure, actually, I'm not 100% sure that Irina has increased her advantage from the position we have left it. The knights have been traded.
You don't like the knights trade?
No, I don't. I thought that knight on b6 was so extremely passive that a bit of a success for Zatonski at the moment, because the point is, yes, there are several weaknesses, and yes, no question about it, arenas for choice. But let's say the move rook b7, in order to counter any chances of rook a6 and rook d1 happening, in this case, black has the defensive move rook c6. To keep her position intact. So while I like Irina's position, Anna clinging on and still has fair defensive resources.
So what's your line on this game? What do you think is more likely, Irina win or Anna Zatonski drawing? Keeping in mind that they've only got 10 moves till time control. Anna's got about 8 minutes. Irina's got 24. What would you, if you had to pick between the 2 results, what would you pick?
Well, in fact, that's the way I see the position.
50-50?
There are only 2 results.
Of course.
I don't see Anna winning.
Half a percent. Some kind of crazy.
So let's just say that I feel at the moment that there's a 33% chance of a win for Irina and a 66% chance of a draw for Anna.
I think I would take the white win on that line.
Okay, so you would reverse my numbers.
I don't think I wouldn't go that far, but I think it's closer to 50-50.
Okay.
So I just think calling this as a total toss-up between a draw and a win, and we'll be keeping an eye on it. Meanwhile, Maurice is that Shanklin-Akovian game. What did Shanklin end up playing?
The game is blown up. It's huge now. Shanklin has played the move h6, And with the pressure on, Akobian made a crazy move. He played the move D4 in this position. D4, guys, his pieces are not secure, especially his king. White's better developed. Usually when you open up a game when the other side is better developed, bad things happen to you. And this move D4 has the engines going crazy. They don't like it. They're saying, what are you doing? Now you've opened up a line for this bishop. This bishop can go to the E4 square. White was begging to somehow open up the game, but you're doing it for White. Shanklin played a strange move here. He played the move queen to G4. Not the ideal one according to the engines, but still better for White for sure. His advantage has certainly increased, and he is for choice here. He had better moves in this position. Bishop to E4 for starters was an attractive move in this position. But at any rate, the game is going with queen G4. It is Shanklin in control. Varuzhin down to 2 minutes on his clock. He's in big trouble. That pressure, he must have felt that pressure, Yaz, and thought, I need to make a move. I just need to do something to change the nature of this direction. Otherwise, I'm just going to lose with ease. And maybe in the complications, I might win. But with him having no time on his clock and his opponent looking for a way to break in, I think this was a really poor decision on his part. Not practical at all. Sam has all the time in the world to sit, analyze, break it down, and refute. Guys?
Seal the deal. Just a quick question before I let you go, Maurice. D5, D4, double-edged, probably helpful to White for sure. But in truth, I didn't really see a good move for Var. What was the computer's recommendation in that tough position after H5, H6?
Sit tight. The solution was to sit tight and just play queen C7. There's not much to do here. Let your opponent figure out how to win and make matters, take matters into his own hands. No reason to offer the guy, gift him open lines. I mean, you're definitely worse.
Well,
it's
queen
clear.
G4, queen H5.
It's clear that black is worse, and it's going to get worse. But let him find moves. Playing D4 is just like throwing yourself on your own sword.
Well, that's true, because I guess queen coming to C7, keeps us a little honest with the queen G4, queen H5 ideas. We at least have to worry about the E5 pawn coming.
Right.
It's worse. It's worse for sure. I mean, it's bad.
Right.
But I don't think the recipe was to open up the game. The bishops are hungry to see the game open, especially the B1 bishop, the light square bishop. Why would you change the structure? The only thing that's keeping you in the game is the fact that the guy hasn't broken down the doors yet.
Right.
Well, sometimes in time pressure, a lot of people play moves that are more forcing and that yank things open. When even though, like, of course, Var is a amazing grandmaster, so he knows, like, logically that with his king position.
Yeah.
But I think it's just very tough when you're in time pressure to play all of those great moves.
Well, and to sit tough, sit tight, as Maurice described. We have seen the position being open. Pawn captures on C3 has been played.
Rook takes C3 has been played in response.
Right, just recapture with the rook. And guess what? These two bishops, with each pawn trade, the diagonals for the bishops are coming open, and it's getting increasingly clear that there's no way that black is going to put his king on the king side. He hasn't connected his rooks thus far, and now suddenly with
queen B6 by Varuzhin in response.
Yeah, I was going to say, with rook takes C3, the move B2, B3
just as simple.
has suddenly appeared on the board.
Although I was wondering if knight E5 was a tactical defense there, but probably not with all those open lines. In any case,
so queen B6 has been played.
Queen B6 has been played, and now how's he dealing with queen H5?
I don't know, but I'm looking at something even more scintillating. I'm looking at a move like rook takes C4, B takes C4, sacrificing exchange. So I've got this idea that my bishop might creep out over here to the A4 square. In the meantime, I'm going to slash and burn on the king side with a move like bishop takes G5. I'm looking at these tactical ideas of bishop A4 check and going after black's king. And this sacrifice would obviously catch my eye right away. I'm not saying rook takes C4 is forced, but I'm saying those kinds of ideas are in the position for white, and it is all white at the moment.
Yeah, the rook C4 looks pretty attractive.
It does.
Queen H5, guy. Queen
H5 is also
rook F3 threats and.
Queen H5
was
obviously.
Well, you can't even play rook F8 because the bishop on the pawn on H7 is hanging.
The G5 pawn is actually hanging right now, as opposed to before because you were pinned. There's just it's over. It's actually
no
horrible.
Counterplay for black.
The move D4 so compromised black's position that this position is busted. It's just, it was under pressure. He played the wrong move. And I understand when you're in time pressure, you want to do something, but opening up the game was not the thing to do.
With
you
your
had
king
to
in the
hunker
center.
down and sit tight.
That's the whole thing about the Caro-Kann and the French. A lot of times you don't castle as early as you do in other openings, but the whole idea is it's okay because the position's more closed.
Exactly, it's closed, and this is the type of position where a player like Tigran Petrosian really excelled. He kept awkward, difficult positions. He was the greatest defensive player I've ever seen, and unfortunately that move d5, d4 just really violated a lot of principles of the defense, and VAR, I think, is losing for sure. 2 minutes on the clock. Queen g4 to h5. All of those threats that we've mentioned. Bishop takes g5, rook f3, and Sam is just licking his chops. He can't believe how fortunate he is to get this position against our tournament leader.
And he might be nervous, Sam, but he doesn't look it at all.
No.
Looking at him there, he seems quite calm. He's calculating variations. He knows he's a top-level GM in this country for sure, and a fine young attacking player. The only thing he might be thinking about your delicious sacrifice and thinking, I could get one from my best games collections. I just smack him with a sacrifice. But if he's just cool and calm and just plays queen h5, VAR has just no moves.
Yeah,
it's just a horrible position for him. It's interesting the way Sam keeps picking up pieces, playing with them in his hand and then putting them back down. We know Garry Kasparov had a lot of tells with his watch and his jacket coming off. It's interesting there what I'm trying to figure out when Sam does that to make himself more comfortable, because he keeps grabbing the pieces and then playing with them a little bit and then putting them back down. But you can see he's a little bit nervous too. He's a little bit agitated, trying to figure out exactly what to do. He's not playing automatically here. He has 22 minutes on his clock to only 2 minutes and 25 seconds for Akobian with 9 moves to go. 9 moves Akobian has to make. But by the time he makes that 9th move at move 40, he might be dead already. He might just be over. So just needs to find the move, Sam Shanklin, that will push the leader of the tournament over the edge.
Absolutely.
That's right. So if Varuzhin Akobian does go down, it looks like Gata Kamsky, the road is open for him to be tied for first, and that will be going into their crucial matchup tomorrow.
Exactly.
With VAR holding the wide pieces.
And I don't think we've seen the move queen h5 by Sam. I think we saw the move a3, a4. Or
no, b3. B3 has been played.
b2, b3. This move White has had in reserve for some time, wanting to kick back the knight on c4. Maurice mentioned that knight takes a3 is not the kind of move you want to play because this pawn on g5 is so critical. After the trade, bishop takes c3, bishop takes c3, queen takes g5. White's threatening. It has issues like ideas like queen g7 on his agenda.
Isn't it nice how that bishop on c2 guards any counterplay that you could possibly have? You don't even have spike checks.
No spike checks on d1. But I don't think VAR is going to settle for a knight retreat, because the knight retreat back to a5, this just looks awful with the knight way out here on this side of the board. A lot of nice choices. Again, Maurice had mentioned that move, bishop e4. I just love that powerful kind of centralizing move. I do appreciate that I give up the d1 square, but I control this knight. So many nice ideas for White. I mean, that's his only problem. He's got just too many really, really good choices. So I think queen h5 was stronger than b3, but I can certainly appreciate why Sam was attracted to b3 as well.
Now, the endgame in Kamsky-Molnar has sharply simplified here.
Okay.
So we've got a rook endgame with 3 versus 2, and this happened pretty quickly.
Mac will be absolutely elated that he was able to battle his way to this position. 3 and 2 on the king side, notoriously drawn. How did he get to this position? Because I gotta feel that Gata let his opponent slip away.
So that means that if Gata draws this game and Varuzhin loses, Varuzhin will still be in the clear lead because I don't think Lenderman's going to win. So that would be a psychological hurdle for Akobian, even after a loss, still in the lead, has to retain his composure.
Yes, but okay, Gata still has some chances, but what Gata would like to do is advance this pawn, and to advance that pawn, it's going to need king support. So the ideal setup is to put your rook to e7, put your king to e4, and then go f5. Whether that's going to be enough for victory, I'm still doubtful. I think the draw is more likely in this game. Gata still pressing, obviously, but boy, somehow I think Gata let his opponent escape. I still have that feeling that Gata didn't squeeze as much out of this as he should have.
Speaking of squeezing, it looks like Zatansky did not find the right defensive plan in her game against Irina Krush. And now I'm thinking that, how is Anna going to defend that pawn on a7? Is it too late, or is there still some tactics there? Because now the issue is if we try to do your maneuver of getting a rook to b7.
There's a pawn on c5
Exactly.
hanging, right?
So, and rook a4 is now coming in. I guess we could play rook a8.
Right, and
I mean, that's probably what she has to do, but
Anna,
then the king comes to c4.
Then I'm going to switch, and I'm saying there's a 66% chance of victory for Irina, because let's say I'm just going to make a move for black for just a moment, just so we can just share with our viewers what we're talking about. If black seizes the defensive fully, then king to c4, king to d3 to c4, rook a6 is just applying the screws, and there's no saving this. This is just lost.
And that just looks like a time pressure thing that Anna was not able to find that good defensive fortress. Maurice has some news from the Shankland-Akobian game.
Big news, guys. Blunder alert. Blunder alert. It looks like Akobian is going down a full piece. He has made this move, queen a5 against b3. He needed to take on a3, but he played this move hoping to get a tempo on the rook and also go after the a-pawn. But this move loses many ways. The worst way, which Houdini is saying is +5, is queen f3. +5 is a whole rook. After queen f3, he's totally busted. First of all, his knight is still under attack. It looks like a free knight about to come at him. If he moves it away, well, there's a simple move, b4, and that queen is simply trapped. Nowhere to go with the queen. It's simply trapped. He'd have to start sacrificing his bishop. He's going to go down in flames in that line. If he were to play knight takes pawn, the only other way, there's no place else to put the knight. If he were to play knight takes pawn, then simply b4, and the queen and the rook uncover attack on the knight. That knight's going to drop off the board, and he's going to go down in flames. Queen a5, time pressure, and his time is ticking down horribly now. It looks as though he's going to lose this game easily, and all because of terrific time pressure and opening up the game with that move d4. It looks like the tournament leader is now going to drop back, and it's all up to Sam right now after the move queen a5 to just simply find this move. Queen back to f3. Queen g3 wins also. Queen h3 wins also. All he needs to do is defend his rook, and the game is over. And you see Sam there thinking about it. No question, it looks like he's looking at that side of the board, just reassuring himself. I think he sees the move. I think he finds it and wins the game.
Not only that, but I think that VAR now sees the move. He just he kind of looked up, and he this expression of disgust as he said, "Hey, I attacked the guy's rook with my move. Let me bring that game up on my screen. I attacked the guy's rook with the move queen a5, and now he's suddenly having this horrible awareness that after queen f3, very simple move to define, by the way, you defend the rook, but you introduce this massive threats of queen c6 and b4.
He's played queen f3.
And I'm sure VAR saw that move queen f3 only after he made his move.
And he's only down to 30 seconds, guys.
Yeah, he actually made his last move with just 4 seconds left on the clock.
Wow.
So it looks like
my goodness,
our hero of the tournament up till now is going down. And
12 seconds. It's ticking down.
Well, 11. Maybe he's going to just lose on time, not being able to find any way to keep his pieces together.
5 seconds. He finally moved.
With 4 seconds left on the clock. So
Sam Shankland's
G4.
shaking up the tournament field. G5, G4, a desperate move. Again, another time trouble move just to get 30 seconds on the clock. Probably queen c6 check. I wouldn't doubt it if there were just many ways for white to win the game now. Maurice, what do you think? Many
Queen
ways?
c6 check is over. Johnny ball game. Queen c6 check. What are you supposed to do about it? If If you block the check with your rook, well, simply rook over, and that's going to be all she wrote. You can't defend this rook and this knight. If you try to do both, again, this move, knight b6, you just run into b4. What a crazy place for the queen to be. So queen c6 check. It looks as though he has to move his king in this position. And after this, again, we're back to this b4 problem. Now you can't move your queen anywhere. And if you play this move, queen b6, then simply rook takes on c4, gift me the piece. It's over. It's over. And no question about it, he's going to find this sequence.
Queen c6 check was played, and now Varousia Jacobian starting to realize that it might be time for him to throw it in here. I mean, I don't even know if he's going to make a move.
Piece, yeah.
He might just fall on time here because there's just no way to escape. And that looks like a resignation. You look at that sigh, king f8 with a sigh. Is there a chess notation for that?
No, not that I'm aware.
But yeah, this b4 move, and then with the nice idea that after queen b6, rook takes c4, guards the queen, and yeah, that just spells the end.
Well, let's just give Sam the credit that he deserves. Jacobian, what a fantastic run. He had 4 solid draws, then 4 wins, just reeled off 4 wins in a row. Hottest player in the field, and Sam smoked him. This was a real one.
D4.
Hey,
remember that move?
if your opponent's going to blunder.
Position, but look how the queen the queen was the one who took advantage of this crazy D4 moves in time pressure, and Sam knows it's over. But D4, I think, D4 was it. You couldn't play a move like that. You had to just sit and wait, and even if you're going to lose, let the guy break down your castle. Don't let him, don't gift him open lines. You just said, here are the open lines. You want an open line for your rook? You want an open diagonal for your queen? Yeah. For your bishop? You know, he just completely cracked under pressure.
And we have the live crowd here at the St. Louis Chess Club. Of course, most people watching over at Leicester's, where there's live commentary, or on the first floor here at the U.S. Chess Championship, where they can actually watch our commentary. Yeah, so I think this game is going to be over pretty shortly. And meanwhile, I mean, look what's happening this round. This is the round of choking. Yeah. The leaders are choking. Varousia Jacobian, I mean, it's not that shocking that Jacobian and Zatansky lose, but the way they lost, I mean, well, Zatansky hasn't lost yet, but it looks pretty bad. Yeah. I think she's going to lose. Well, and she's also in big trouble on the clock. She's a fighter, but, I mean, she's got to find a way. We'll move back to that game after we get a result here, but she's got to find a way to sacrifice the pawn and not be so passive, I think.
To try to hope, like Mac, that she can get into a rook and pawn endgame, a pawn down, and try to save it. I don't know what, after king f8, has
B4
Sam...
was played.
B4
is on the board.
Was played. Okay, so that is the money move.
Okay, so we've got 42 seconds for VAR here. Oh, bishop takes b4 on the board.
And, of course, White is very, very happy to extract a bishop for 2 pawns. But look at this. The problem is, although from a material point of view, bishop for 2 pawns isn't so bad, but that rook on h8 is so passive out of the game. Black's king is just a wide open target.
But it looks like
it's material and attack.
It looks like instead of after bishop takes b4, Sam quickly played rook takes c4.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that they had played bishop takes. So I'll
take
that
move
back. That's
what I thought too. I saw Sam play instantly.
Sam played rook takes c4. I'm assuming now b takes c4 has been played?
Now we have this on the board. B takes c4, and now a takes b4.
I see. So Sam gave up the rook for the knight, anticipating that this bishop on c1 is going to go to g5 one day very shortly, plant itself on f6, and then we can definitely shake hands, because that is just over. Oh, that's really hard.
It's beautiful, by the way, guys. Rook c4 was really elegant.
Right.
What a way to play. Sam understood the position well. That rook in the corner, let's call it not a rook.
Look at him. He's ready now. He's just looking at VAR. This is a little Kasparovian. Speaking of our guest tomorrow, if he had a watch, he'd be putting him back on, I think.
Totally.
Varousia Jacobian played queen to a1.
A forced move to stop that bishop from getting to that monster square g5 by placing it in a pin.
Queen c5 check quickly by Sam.
Okay, and now this is the issue that Jacobian faces. If he puts his king on g8, well, remember that ready to go checkmate that we've seen in other games. Queen comes over here very quickly, defends the bishop. big threats of queen g5 check, hitting the rook and just setting up for a mate. I think queen c5, queen e3, and that's a towel tosser.
So instead, king d8 was played.
So if you go to king e8, then the problem is that you don't have the time that you need after, for example, king h2, saying, take my bishop. Go ahead, take my bishop. If you take the bishop, then this nasty bishop a4 check that we looked at in a previous line, it ends up resulting in a checkmate by force, as I'm showing you here. And again, remember all what we're talking about, how those pawns on h6 can really kill your king. Well, here's a prime example.
Instead, rook e1, which also seems like it'll be.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So rook e1 was played. He didn't see your move, but now Varouche and Akobian played g3. Again, desperation is definitely on order until he makes time control, after which he might realize just how bad his position is and throw it in.
I really do think he does have that realization, but
yeah,
being in time trouble, you don't have enough time to resign.
Yeah, you don't have enough time to process that this is the time to resign, unless it's checkmate or you're like down a queen. So
you play g3. So I thought king h2. Well, okay, we're splitting fine hairs. Definitely, Sam's just got lots of choices of how he wants to win it, I guess.
Because now everything's protected, so we can just bring the bishop in the old-fashioned way, just via the e4 square.
Hold on, I've got to find my mouse, I apologize. Find my mouse. Bishop c2, e4, just setting up for that obvious check. Black's king under all kinds of trouble, doesn't help. You can toss in a spike check, but that's really all she wrote. Bishop g5.
Now you have queen d4 check.
That is true.
So, I mean, that's kind of annoying. You might want to play queen takes f2 instead, though. And even that's got to be totally crushing.
I'm just sorry. Even if I trade queens and I've got a dark... I saw one particularly attractive mate that I wanted to put...
Oh, is there a mate here, too?
Yeah, that I like to put on... It's not even mate, but I was thinking that this would be mate, but no. Okay. But all kinds of wins for white, for sure. And
queen f2, guys, in that position right here, after takes on f2, queen f2 is definitely powerful in that position. I might want to show it on the board here. Bishop e4 is extremely strong. Number one move for the computer. And queen takes f2. This king is just caught in a net. I mean, the bishop is coming to c6. This bishop is preparing to go out. If you try to trade queens with this move, queen to d4, then after this check here, you're going to be all she wrote after king to f8 and now bishop to e3. And have you seen such bishops? I mean, when you see him, you just go, no, stop, leave me alone. Because this is just ugly. No place to put the queen. Queen takes pawn, of course, runs into bishop c5 check. And I mean, it's the killer bees. It's the attacker, the killer bees. This one's out. It's just, he's just trying to get to the 40th move right now. Like you said, I think that's hilarious. He just doesn't have enough time to resign. Just making moves.
Instead, Sam Shankly didn't play bishop e4. Instead, he played f takes g3, allowing queen to d4 check, which, as we pointed out, like even those variations, you're not really getting away from the two bishops. But
well,
so that's surprising.
The other way, keeping queens on the board, obviously seems a lot more attractive, just to finish the game immediately.
By the way, that's move 40. That's move 40. So Sam had a lot of time in his clock,
Sam had 46 minutes. So yeah, I think that's a little strange by Sam not to. I mean, he's mentally won the game. But
yeah, he's chalking it up, no question about it. And he's got the game won. Let's be fair. But a little bit questionable technique there just at the end. He was playing so well with
best games collection, like Maurice
C4.
mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Or you did. One of you mentioned the best games collection. But now that they've made move 40, let's take a look at Irina Krush-Zatansky, our other critical game of the day for the standings, because we saw that it looked like Zatansky was going to go down a pawn and maybe she would also have a passive game. So now she's at least trying to keep some activity and she is going to go down a pawn.
So let's see what had happened. Indeed, as we thought Irina would do, Irina jumped over with rook a4 going after the a7 pawn. Kind of interesting. She could have milked the position a little bit more with the preliminary move king d3, not allowing Anna, her opponent, this gasp for some kind of activity. We've seen this trade takes, king d3. Arena must think that after the rook on c4 retreats or moves, that after rook takes a7, she not only is a pawn up, but also weaknesses over on the king side. Arena's cruising in this position. I think that it's a 75% likelihood that Arena is going to win this game, bring herself in a tie for first with all to play for in round 9 tomorrow.
That's right, and that would mean that both of those players would be watching each other. Well, they probably won't actually watch their games closely. They'll probably just assume that they have to win.
Exactly.
If this game is, because I think that they don't want to be distracted, especially since both players have been under time pressure. But Anna Zatonski will be white against Katerina Nemkova. And
who's playing great, by the way.
She's playing well, although she did have a gift in one of her games.
That's true.
And then Irina Krush will be black against Victoria Nice. So kind of likely, there's a reasonable likelihood that both players will win. But if one of them slips and the other wins, and we will get a champion without tiebreak. But even more likely, I think, we'll get 2 victories and then we'll see a playoff. Won't that
Another
be fun?
playoff. Just you see the drama of the previous playoff. What happened when these ladies went head to head? Boy, that would be thrilling. And in case of a playoff, by the way, Jen, would they play on Monday the next day?
No, actually, they have a free day tomorrow. So their last game will be on Monday.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Round 9 is Monday for the ladies.
The playoff will be the same time because we don't want to be
on
commentating
Tuesday.
on one playoff and one regular time control game. That would be really weird.
So just to be clear, on
Tuesday.
Monday, on Tuesday the playoffs.
Yes,
okay,
I think we're gonna have 2 playoffs.
Really?
Yesterday, I thought we were going to have 0 because I thought, Akobian's in the lead, Zatonska's in the lead. Like, they're both playing well. Maybe they'll cruise to victory. A full point advantage is pretty big, right?
Right.
But now that the round is taking place, I actually think we might see 2 playoffs, very likely.
If we were to see 2 playoffs in the open section, who do you reckon would be involved in the tie?
Akobian and Kamsky, unless my math is off. Because it's true, like, Akobian losing and Kamsky drawing, it's like, it's kind of hard for them to tie in a way, but it's possible. It's a lot of ways for it to happen.
Very good.
What do you think?
I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
I'd love to see it. I think it would be exciting and dramatic, and I love these playoffs, and I really think it showcases chess at its highest and most
level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we see, unfortunately for Var, he's sitting there thinking about everything that has gone wrong in this game, but feeling, sad about this particular game, but boy, 4 wins in a row. That was just outstanding, and he just has to put it behind him today's game and play for victory. Maurice, you had some thoughts to share in the games?
Well, just in that game in particular with Varuzhin, it was really weird. There were some things in this game that he's going to kick himself about. The first thing, Yaz, you remember he played this move, bishop c5 and then g6. That was already the first sign that something had gone wrong. I'll pull up the position just to get us there. It was back here in the opening. He played this move, bishop to c5. Now, this is an unusual move. It's not one that's often played. Bishop e7 is more often played here, or even g6 is played. But when he combined this idea with this move, this was already a little bit of a sign. For the experienced players, we all look and go, why are you doing that, right? That doesn't make any sense. Robert Hess came on and said the same thing. Why would you play these 2 moves in succession? They don't coordinate well together. So that was the first sign. But then later, more critically, is when this position occurred. He played this move, bishop e7. And then after queen g3, a6, bishop h6, he played bishop to f8. And after bishop f4, he played bishop g7. And look at this bishop. I mean, it must think it's at a disco party because it's just boogieing back and forth. And then went to e7. He wasted 6 moves with that bishop, and now we just see this move, rook to g8 is on the board. He wasted 6 moves with that bishop, and that was just ridiculous. It was just like, you're wasting time. So you could already see the signs of nervousness, how he might have slept last night, we don't know. But then a critical moment in the game was when, so that was 2 things, right? And then the third terrible sign for him was when he played the move d4 right around was a little bit later, right around here, right here, when he played d4 under terrific time pressure, which is another thing he allowed to happen. And now they're moving very quickly because Sam sees a clear line to victory after this king moves. Something horrible is going to happen, actually. After the king moves, bishop to e3 looks terrible. Let me get my analysis board in. So if the king moves, this move looks like lights out because the bishop seems like it's headed to c5, and what are you going to do about it? So he's just out now. He's just dead. But you saw all these signs, and he's sitting there. You can see his face. Just look at the despair almost on his face. Like, how did I play like such rubbish today? Like, why today of all days? He just felt the pressure. Sam came after him, but Sam didn't do anything like monstrous in the opening. You know, it was an advanced Caro-Kann, but you could just see on Var's face, he's not at the board anymore. His eyes are off in the distance, thinking about how he tripped up here in this point in the tournament, and how's he going to get back from this and win the tournament? Because he knows he's got Kamsky tomorrow, Linderman after that. You can see the hurt in his eyes at this moment. He just did not come to the board right. And you see Shanklin, you know, he knows it's over. He's just saying, dude, I'm sorry, but this is how chess rolls.
Yeah, Shanklin enjoying to ruin people's weeks. Remember, he also ruined Lenderman's week.
Yeah, well, he's playing the role of the spoiler. I mean, he'd hoped to be in the leader group himself, but when he's playing with the leaders, obviously a very dangerous threat. And today, I mean, he scorched Akobian. Akobian played just a poor game. Var did. I mean.
Look how he's looking at the moves now. He's looking at his score sheet. He's not even looking at the board. He's clearly resigned right now. He's looking at where did I go wrong? What did I do?
I had, of course. I mean, we've all been in this.
Played the friend.
Yeah, exactly. We've all been in this situation. We're all experienced players and know what it's like. I recall very vividly. It was actually a U.S. Championship held in Seattle, and I was doing quite well, just at the finish line, ready to pick up another title. And I ran into Alexander Shabalov. And Shabby did something very strange in the opening, and I just had an overwhelming position. And then in some miraculous, weird time trouble, I blew it. And by the time the time trouble was over, I was staring at a lost position, looking at my score sheet for like 20 minutes, wondering what did I do wrong before congratulating my opponent on a fine result. Ah!
look at poor Var. I mean,
yeah, tough.
You got to feel.
It's tough.
I know the feeling well myself. Yes, absolutely.
Yes. We've all been
cruising
there.
towards a tournament victory and tripping up. You just feel devastated, wondering if the gods chose this day to punish you in particular. And Var, oh man, he can't even process what's happening now. He should just. This is when the resignation rule, Jen, is in effect. We want them to play on to mate, but when you look at the anguish on his face, he's just devastated.
That's right. I mean, look at the happy Var right next to Sam. You've got a happy Var.
Oh, the picture
in the background. In the background.
Oh man.
But the way for Varuzhin Akobian, I think, to get over this loss, if he can, is to logically in his head. He was supposed to lose. He was supposed to draw yesterday.
Right.
He was kind of gifted a point, as you say.
Right.
Right. So kind of try to pretend, pretend in his head that he just made 2 draws and he's a half a point ahead in the U.S. Championship, which is a good place to be. If he can make that mental kind of connection,
right.
I think tomorrow he can come out and say like, "Hey, I'm leading the tournament."
Right. The way I did it when I was leading a tournament and I had a slip up. The way I did it, I said, look, before the tournament began, if you said to yourself, Yasser, you're in a position with 2-3 rounds to play and you've got a half a point lead, would you agree? You say, of course, I'm in first. And you got to put what happened behind you and just say, wow, what a blessing it is that I'm in first place.
In a super strong U.S. chess
In a super strong, look at me. I'm just about ready to win the tournament. I'm very excited about my opportunity to win the tournament. A move has been played by Var. I'm not sure what he did. He did play king.
Same king F8
immediately.
And Sam just immediately played bishop E3.
Okay, we're seeing, oops, I'm sorry, rook G8 was the move. By the way, after rook G8, I wasn't even sure that bishop A4 was necessary because the pawn on H7, he could have played bishop E3, but this was Sam's choice, and Var struggling, coping, finally chose king f8, bishop e3. Maurice pointed out how devastating bishop c5 check is about to be. I can imagine VAR.
And he has resigned, and the tournament leader slipping up, giving Gata a chance to catch him, although it looks like that game will be a draw. Meanwhile, Irina Kreshina and Zatansky about to make time control. That game's going to go a lot longer as we wait for Sam Shankly to come down and talk about his victory. And what do you assess? Anna here is trying to fight. She's trying to create an endgame where she's down just a pawn and she has some counterplay. That's her dream. So with h5, she's thinking, rook takes g7, rook b2. I'm going to gain one of my pawns back.
And let's just make sure that that is indeed the case. Rook takes g7, as you mentioned. Irina having the opportunity to nibble over here on the king side. Rook a4, trying to get rid of this a2 pawn. And let's just make sure that
I was
after
thinking
check,
rook b2.
Oh, rook b2.
Hitting h2 and b2.
I'm sorry. So rook b2 with a double attack. Same thing. What I was going after was a move like rook check, just to make sure that black's king didn't have any issues. I guess this is ridiculous. I'm sorry. I was looking at some king d5. Not necessary. Certainly not trading g7 pawn for the a2 pawn. Probably I should just tickle this rook somehow. How am I going to do that? What is a decent move here for white? Well, if nothing else, maybe just simply h4. Just taking the pawn off of the h2 square. I guess black could come down with rook here. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, it seems like I mean...
And then maybe something like rook here with a sly little nasty threat of bishop c5.
So we'd have to move our king in this position.
Likely to this square, wouldn't you think, Jen? And then I'm thinking that...
You're thinking this is an easy win for white?
I'm not thinking it's an easy win for white. I'm thinking that white's a pawn up to begin with, and she has the initiative.
She has the better bishop and the better king.
And the ability to make threats. So definitely Irina looking great here. Anna's choice of openings, passive middle game, seizing the defensive, everything she said she wasn't going to do, she ended up doing precisely that.
But it's still not going to be completely easy because, again,
exactly.
Irina's used basically has used all of her first time control. She's about to make the move 40, and she had a big edge on time before, but now they're both under 2 minutes. So with only one move to make each, though. So they're definitely both going to make time control, but then the question is, she's got 30 minutes to win this position. I think she's going to do it, but it's certainly not in the bag.
Right. Oh, for sure. And just to take a quick look on board 2 between Alex Lenderman and Danya Noroditsky. Again, 3 versus 3, rook and bishop with queens on the board. Lenderman needs a win to bring himself up in a tie for first. I don't think he's going to get it. Definitely still nursing an advantage, but I don't think it's enough to win.
We have another result in Ramirez and Onushuk. That game was a draw. So Ramirez was up a pawn, but wasn't able to make any progress.
Whoa.
And Gata Kansky Monar, what's going on here?
I think Gata's winning
this has turned
suddenly.
out a lot better than we thought it would.
He got everything and then some. We have to go back a few moves. It was 3 versus 2. Notoriously drawn, but Molnar took on f5, undoubling white's pawns, giving Gata a very nice f5, g5 pawn formation, and then Gata just brought his king nicely to the king side, h5, and suddenly after check, Mac in trouble in this game. I'm guessing, well, he has to go king g8, and let me just see. It's not quite over yet. If we play the move f6, which is, of course, the type of move we want to play, after rook h1, I was thinking that Gata was just going to go over here and nibble on this h-pawn. Not so fast. Rook h1 check, and the pawn is protected. So still, Gata has to show some technique, but if the position is winning, I think God is going to win it without question. He'll find the win if it's there. Again, rook endings notoriously drawn, but this sure looks like Gada got more than he could ever have imagined.
Wow, so in that case, Varushin wouldn't be leading the tournament if Gada wins this game. In fact, it would be a tie for first at the top of the standing.
Isn't Gada 1 point behind?
Yes. So if he wins the game,
they'll tie.
Yeah.
Precisely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So they'll be at the leaderboard and playing. So basically a perfect scenario if Gada manages to win this game.
And so we do have the move f6 as expected, and I think...
Now you think we're going to use the rook to come behind the pawns. Yesterday we talked about the Philidor position, and that's not this, but a similar concept that once the pawn advances...
There's no hiding place for the white king.
Exactly.
And so black tries to check from
Whereas
behind.
before, if you tried to check behind, I could sneak my king into f6.
Exactly.
So really, the whole Philidor position is not really just a position, it's a concept. Similar to the Lucina position, a concept of building a bridge.
Right.
It's not just about memorizing that position exactly, but memorizing the idea.
I just think that's so cool in chess that you have these expressions like building a bridge. When I was learning these things when I was a kid, I was thinking to myself, a bridge? How do you get a bridge in chess? I mean, how does one build a bridge? And I'm very pleased to say that Varushin Akobian is in studio. He's getting set up. And other games, do you have some other games on our screen that we should take a quick look at? It looks to me like Josh Friedel versus Sergei Ehrenberg, just a quick flash. Looks like
nice for black.
Super nice for
Friedel's tournament. I mean, Friedel's having a great tournament. One of the lower rated players in the field with his U.S. Open victory getting in, and the lowest rated actually.
And he's looking really good in that game. And let me just.
And that would bring him to a plus score actually. In
wow.
the championship. Yeah.
That's how thrilling that is. And then Timur Gariev, Ray Robson, we haven't paid much attention to that. They
both, a bigger plus score. Actually, he had 4.5, and so yeah, that.
They both look like they've been struggling to almost a standstill. But I was going to say that first impressions, Timur Gariev trying to save the position against Ray Robson. Ray Robson having the better minor piece after a rook trade. So.
And we have Grandmaster Maurice Ashley with Varushin Akobian still leading the tournament, or at least a tie if Gada wins, but losing today's game and putting the championship very much in question. He's with Maurice.
With Grandmaster Varushin Akobian, currently our leader in the tournament. Far, you had a tough game today. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, I just, in the opening, he played his c3 move, which is not the main line. So I didn't react well against it. And I think I still had a pretty good, solid position and just made several mistakes in some point after I exchanged the knight on f3 and to basically here in this position I should just play h5 immediately, and I'm slightly worse but nothing really special. So by allowing him to put his pawn on h5, then it was already unpleasant. But if I play the pawn on h5 here, then I always try to exchange the dark square bishop. I'm slightly worse, but very solid here. So I think it should have been fine. I don't know why I didn't play h5. I was going to play it.
We saw you move your bishop back and forth as well. Was this just uncertainty? Did you feel like something was going to go wrong today before the game? No.
I just got a little bit surprised when he played the c3 move in the opening, which is considered really nothing. This is not the main line. Main line is bishop b3, and I perhaps didn't play the best way. But even here, I think I'm slightly worse, but I should be okay. And of course, this move here was really bad when he played bishop h6. Here, after I play bishop f8, bishop f4, I should just play. Again, h5 and make sure that he doesn't get this h5 pawn. Then bishop g7 is a mistake. I missed it when he plays h4. I cannot play h5, then bishop g6 is very strong. So I lost like 2 tempos. Right, moving your bishop back and forth. Yeah, but still position, it's still pretty solid. Then I think later on, I made some mistakes also, but it was unpleasant already. This moment you played d4 seemed like a surprising move at that point. No, I think after I played g5, it's already really bad here. after G5, it's basically lost here. So just maybe right here, when I played B5, maybe this is not. I mean, here I'm just only slightly worse, but it's not easy to play because this H5 pawn is causing a lot of problem. But if I put my pawn on H5, then I don't have to worry about this. But this is already slightly unpleasant here. I should play very accurately and try to defend.
You said you got into a lot of time pressure as well. That must have been difficult to handle with
I just spent a lot of time here in the opening when he played C3 move. This move, we didn't spend that much time on that move because it's nothing really special. But I guess should have maybe spent a little bit more time looking at just the exact setup against it, because I sort of got a good French defense, advanced structure, but maybe c takes d4 was too early. Maybe I should play rook c8 first, wait a move, and then to see what he does. Because then when I took, he plays knight d4. It's very concrete and looks like he was well prepared.
You're still in first place. It looks like Kamsky is trying to press, but is likely a draw. Lenderman looks like likely a draw as well, which will leave you completely in first place. Still must like your chances, although you do have to play Kamsky and Lenderman in the next 2 rounds.
Yeah, I just have to make sure that just shake up and just play better next 2 games. Just this was not a good game. I didn't play well today.
How do you get over a game like this? What do you do?
I don't know exactly, but hopefully just play better, play more confidently, and don't spend too much time in the opening, because I start doubting myself a little bit today in the opening, and that's why I spent a lot of time.
All right, well, we wish you the best of luck in the rest of your games. Thanks for joining us. Grandmaster Varuj Nakobian still looks like he's going to be in first place, guys, because the other 2 games look like draws. He's going to have to shake it off and play the rest of the games. Back to you guys.
What he's got to do is remind himself he's +3, and he's having a great tournament, and he's capable of playing great chess. That's what he's got to do.
Yes.
Shake off this game. I'm bringing up the women's championship game.
That's right. As they made move 40, but Irina didn't take your advice, and instead
She took the pawn. I think I understand what she has in mind. I think what Irina did, just go back a move, she did make the decision after this move h5 to trade her pawn on a2 for the pawn on g7. She played rook takes g7, rook down, and I think what her intention is to play the move h4, and after rook takes a2, and to go after this pawn on h5.
With rook g5?
Or perhaps I always like to toss in a rook g6 check to make the opponent declare which way her king is going to go. Say after king d7, rook g5, only move, because otherwise I'm just going to snip that pawn off the board. And I think this is what Irina has in mind, of bringing her king to this square d5. At the moment, she has to just keep a watchful eye that rook e2. If rook e2 attacking a bishop, she goes back rook g2. This is the way what Anna hopes will be her chance of making a draw.
Yeah, so what do you think? Do you think this one is still likely a win for Irina?
I don't know.
It's looking a little bit less terrible, doesn't it?
Exactly. First of all, it's great from Anna's point of view that she's got an active rook.
Yes.
Before, all of her pieces were all tied up, struggling just to breathe. Here she's a pawn down.
And a lot of pawn trades also, which makes life a little bit easier for her as well.
Big time.
Well, we do have the big winner today, Sam Shanklin, who a lot of Kamsky fans are pretty happy with him right now. He defeated the tournament leader, Varuj Nakobian, similarly to how he defeated Alexander Lenderman, who was having a great tournament earlier in the event. So,
the spoiler alert.
Yeah, indeed. And he's with Maurice Ashley.
Indeed. Grandmaster Sam Shanklin, does Gada Kamsky owe you a drink or something? I'm not sure you're old enough to drink yet.
I am old enough to drink. I'd prefer some free lessons or just throw me a part of his prize. But, I think he's pretty happy with me recently.
Indeed. You knocked off both tournament leaders so far. This game, considering that VAR has been playing extremely solidly and then had run off 4 games in a row, this one made him just not look so good. How did you get such a big advantage right away?
Oh, I feel very comfortable in the Caro-Kann. I've actually scored, I think, 100% since learning e4 against the Caro-Kann. I used to play it with black. I still do sometimes. So I just enjoy those positions a lot, and I think he kind of got confused a little bit in the opening. He was probably surprised by my c3 move, which theory regards is not that impressive, but I had some ideas that I was, well, hoping to change that evaluation. And very quickly, he found himself objectively worse in a position that was harder to play and low on time. So when you're worse and you're prone to mistakes, for both time pressure and pressure on the board, it's very hard to hold on. And I don't know. I mean, I don't even know if I can suggest better defensive moves. There were times when I thought this move looked strange, but I couldn't really see much better. It just seemed like unpleasant for him the whole way.
Were you shocked when he started doing the boogie dance with his bishop, c5, e7, f8, g7, f8, e7?
I'm not sure, because it's tough. The problem is once I play bishop h6, I really don't think he can tolerate the bishop there. He has to put the bishop on f8, and then I play bishop f4. And bishop g7 is natural, but after h4, if he castles, I think I play h5, and he's just going to get checkmated. I don't think he can save himself there. So I don't know. I mean, it looked a bit strange to me. I think I listened to his interview. I think he should have played h5, but I do think he's under a fair amount of pressure there. He's objectively worse, and he has to defend, which is very unpleasant, and he's lower on time. I mean, I think it's a better chance, but I think I was kind of in control the whole way.
When he played d4, it looked like he just opened the game up for your pieces.
Oh,
Like,
it was
like
no, I mean, it was
a gift in that position.
I don't think so. It was completely forced, because if he does nothing, I just play queen g4, queen h5, and f7 collapses, and so he has to do something or else he can just resign. So I was expecting d4. I thought there was no way he'd play any other move. But I mean, I was sure I was doing very well, but you know, I thought if he doesn't do it, I just queen g4, queen h5, and you just can't save f7.
So you had the plans clear. So you're at 50% now?
Yeah, I've not had the best result. I'm still pretty disappointed, but today's game was very nice.
Indeed. Well, congratulations on a big win, and we wish you the best in the rest of the tournament.
Thanks much.
Grandmaster Sam Shanklin playing world beater in the tournament. Gadakomsky's got a smile on his face. He may not be showing it, but he's got to feel pretty good about what just transpired here in this tournament. Back to you guys.
That's right. Sam Shanklin shaking up the U.S. Chess Championship, which we are going to stay tuned for the critical games today. We've got Crush, who is trying to pounce on Zatansky up a pawn, and we'll be back with that and also see if Gadakomsky can pull this through.
Exactly.
So join us in just a few minutes. We'll be back for the final action here in the round 9 of the U.S. Chess Championship. Well, how many of you guys played Queen E8 check like Bobby Fischer? Maurice tells you why.
Well, I'd love to play a move like Queen E8 in this position. Always juicy to sacrifice your queen. Of course, you don't have to tell Bobby Fischer twice. He probably blinked and saw the move. Queen to E8 check, forcing Benko to resign on the spot after rook takes on E8. The deflection of the rook results in bishop to D5 check. And now you can only throw stuff in the way, but it's going to be hopeless. A move like rook to E6, queen takes now and pawn takes. And this knight's just horrible. It's trapped. Even the king's trapped. Here comes the move, E7. The game is over. So Fischer was able to win in style against one of, unfortunately, his regular customers, pal Benko. But a lot of people could lay claim to that title of Bobby Fischer's regular customers because he was just such a fantastic player. Guys?
Yeah, it's dominant, and the difference between the level of him, number one, and the next number two player was so massive. And you see Magnus Carlsen trying to approximate that effect these days. There's a lot of distance between him and Aronian.
And even when Garry Kasparov was the world's highest rated player, he had a little distance between his rival, Anatoly Karpov. But Garry said, listen, the gap that Fischer established with his colleagues it's not going to be duplicated again.
Right, and Magnus is making an attempt, though.
He's
certainly at 2900chess.com.
He's certainly impressing.
I wonder if anyone's snapped that URL up yet. We do have a question from one of our Twitter users. GMs Yasser 77 asks, wouldn't a heads-up win be the first tiebreak in the women's championship or the championship? The answer is no. I understand logically it seems that if both players have the same score, then maybe you could determine it by their individual result, but first of all, that's kind of unfair to the person who gets black in that encounter.
Sure.
And secondly, that's just not the way we do it. We have an exciting
playoff.
Yeah. And and here we see that in that championship, the women's championship, Irina Krushins-Zahansky have contested so many playoffs in the past. If Irina wins this game, there's a likely chance we'll see a playoff. And here's how it'll break down. In a two-way tie, the players will hold a 2-game rapid match. So that's a game 25 match. And if it's tied 1-1, either by 2 decisive results or by 2 draws, they'll then contest an Armageddon game. And actually, that'll be an Armageddon bidding game, so it's not going to be an Armageddon game where you're going to see a 5-minute blitz or something like that. So it'll be a longer time control where both players decide how much time they're willing to sacrifice in
or
order
the draw, it's a black.
Exactly.
Right.
And so we've had those games a lot, and they've been really exciting. I think one of my favorites was Kamsky-Schulden. If there are 3 players, then the players with the lowest tie breaks in the round robin will contest an Armageddon game, and the winner will then face the player with the higher. Well, the winner will then play the winner of the Armageddon game in a 2-game rapid match.
I gotcha.
So that should be pretty exciting if it ends up occurring, and we'll give you more details on that as it approaches.
Yeah, as those possibilities become
a 3-way
plausible.
tie seems very unlikely. We'll almost certainly see a heads-up tie if we see a tie.
I like the playoff system, and I liked it really even more after the candidates match in London in 2013, where Magnus and Vladimir Kramnik tied for first. Magnus won on tiebreak, but I thought that would have been great if they would have played a playoff. I'm looking at the game between Irina Krush and Anna Zahansky. Irina has just played this move A2, A4, giving Anna a very awkward choice. Should she, Anna, okay, capture this pawn on H2 right away and allow this A pawn to stay on the board and push it to A4, or should she step back behind the pawn and play to capture the pawn on A4 with rook takes A2 at potentially the cost of the pawn on H5? I think she's going to have to go for rook takes A2. Oops, excuse me. That she should make this decision, try to trade as many pawns off the board ASAP, and just hope that essentially Irina runs out of material, and that she can get a draw, for example, rook and bishop versus rook type of situation. Interestingly enough, earlier in the tournament, Anna Zatonsky won a rook and knight versus rook. Should she have to defend rook and bishop versus rook, I think that that would be a little bit ironical.
Yeah, of course, harder to defend rook and bishop versus rook.
True, true.
But
true.
a lot of this is also going to come down to time situations, I believe, because, you know, we're in the second time control, but that's still only 30 minutes, right?
Right. And take me through some of the other results. Do we have some other results, Jen?
Just a couple. It seems like most people are fighting. Victoria Nee did win her game against Sabina Fleischer.
That was that knight d4, knight f4 variation, and the bishop h3. She got this wonderful attack right out of the opening, and Victoria won that. Very good.
And that's it.
That's it?
And Ramirez, Onishek, and everybody else is still plugging away. So we've got a long round today.
Wow.
Eswaran against Tatev Abrahamian is
still ongoing?
Is also technically Tatev's up a pawn, but I mean, look at those double pawns on g3 and g2.
I'm just bringing that into my screen. Okay, so. Sorry.
And meanwhile, while we look that up, we'll take a look at that after the interview with Victoria Nee, who's with Grandmaster Maurice Ashley.
Indeed, we were with Victoria Nee after a fine win. First of all, Victoria, this is the first time you've been on our show.
Sure, yeah. This is the first time I really deserve it, you know. Because all previous games I had like big advantages, but you know I couldn't convert it. You know, so finally the first one in a row, you know.
Indeed, we saw yesterday you had a really good game, winning a pawn almost out of the opening against Tatev Abrahamian. What happened there?
Sure, you know, as usual, I got to time trouble, you know, so I left with 2 minutes, and you know I couldn't find a win right away. So I thought, yeah, maybe just easier to finish it, you know, in a draw. Probably in some other tournaments I would just play, you know, Probably I will lose, but I will play. Yeah.
I doubt you could lose that position.
No,
kind of hard.
Yeah, it happens, you know.
But today you had a dominating game. Could you have imagined against Sabina Fleischer that just after 12 moves your position would be this good?
Yeah, I actually wasn't prepared for it, you know, but somehow every move I just move it, and you know, at some point I realized I have advantage, you know.
Yeah, at this point you played this move, bishop to g4, and it looked like she made a move that just allowed you to just take over the game.
Sure, I actually was calculating bishop e2. It's probably she needs to move back, but at least she would not give me square on d4, you know.
Indeed, she played this move, knight d2, and this was monstrous.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it shows like I have big advantage.
Oh, the computer loved your position right now.
Yeah. So, yeah, I moved knight e6 with the idea maybe knight d4 or knight f4, but I actually like I prefer black's position for sure. Yeah,
well, after d4 knight here, and all her pieces were on the queen side, and then you played this move, and then this one. How often do black knights appear d4, f4, surrounding a naked king this early in a chess game? This can't have happened to you too often.
Yeah, sure. And instead of bishop b2, I calculated f4 for her, you know, move back, if you can move. Yeah, so here I calculated f4. At least she would not give me the square on f4. So.
I see.
Yeah.
But once you got it, then you got a chance to play this move. That must have felt pretty good.
Yeah, bishop h3. I was happy with this move. You know, she needs to give away the rook, like the bishop on d3 and then rook on f1. Yeah, I'm just winning probably here. Yeah, but it's still, you know, until the result is done, you know, I cannot say anything right now. Yeah.
Indeed, you had such a tough tournament so far. This got to feel pretty good. You have one more game to go. How will you be looking? You have a rest day actually, so you'll get a chance to clear your head. You're the wife of Grandmaster Yuri Shulman. I mean, what's been his support like during these championships?
He's actually very supportive. He prepares me for every game.
Oh, so we can blame him when you mess up?
Yeah. No, I cannot blame him because I get, like, every time I get, like, better or winning position out of opening, and then I couldn't convert it and I lose or I draw, you know. So, no, he's perfect. Yeah. Thanks for him. Yeah.
Indeed. Well, thanks very much for joining us, and we hope you're able to join us the next time after the next game on the show. Yeah,
hopefully I will deserve it, you know.
Indeed. Well, thanks so much, Victoria Nee, and best of luck with the rest of your game.
Thank you.
The charming Victoria Nee, after finally finishing the job. Back to you guys.
And her next game is going to be quite dramatic indeed. She's going to be playing against Irina Krush in the final round.
Oh,
Well,
spoiler alert.
If Irina wins today, I don't think it's. I thought her edge was bigger. I kind of. If you want to take a look at, well, let's look at this position first. But I kind of liked.
I was just. This was the game of Ashritha, but no, the women's. Oops, I'm sorry.
It's a very concrete position, so it's like you can't really go on general principles right now. But I kind of like this little finesse here by Anna. She's trying to play. She played rook to a2 instead of snapping up a pawn.
Right.
With, I think, this kind of idea that instead of taking on h2, she played rook a2.
Rook
h5. The idea that now there's rook a3 check that she can interpolate.
Mm-hmm. Which she did. She did
now,
play a rook a3 check.
And now when she takes on...
she'll do so with a tempo because she will be winning a tempo against the pawn on e4. Yeah?
Right. Although she might, I mean, she still might take on h2. I don't. Is it, or do you think it's clear that she's going to take the pawn on a4? Because otherwise, the white pawn will start running.
Oh, sure. I'm absolutely sure that she will take the pawn on a2. Now, of course, Irina could simply play check, and after, for example, king d7, play for a position of 2 connected pass pawns versus a pawn on e5. Obviously better for white. Is it winning? We don't know. The point is if Irina tries to maintain the pawn on e4, then Anna has this nasty little move. This pin bishop means that the threat of bishop c5 has to be taken seriously. So we might see a 2 versus 1, and again, from Anna's point of view, this is ideal. Keep trading, and maybe get a rook and bishop versus rook situation.
Right, and it's not that whole complete control that Irina had.
What she really
position,
wanted, yes,
where
of course.
Where she could just paralyze her and then take off all her pawns. This one is really two results, and I can't really say which one I find more likely. I mean, especially with both players, you know.
How's the time factor?
At the times, you know, after just 3 moves after time control, Anna's got 14 minutes and Irina's got 17. So it's like, that means that at this rate, in another 4 moves, they're going to be playing on increments, right?
For the rest of the game?
Well, if they go at this rate, I'm saying they both only played 3 moves. Well, 2 moves for Anna and 3 moves for Irina. So if they continue to go at this rate, just a few moves from now, it'll be pieces flying.
Yes, and
I mean, of course, they're probably going to start playing a bit quicker because these moves were maybe a little bit more critical. Kind of the move 40.
Why do you think that they've been spending so much time? Are they double checking and rechecking their calculations? I know it's a big game.
And it is a kind of critical moment, right? Because Irina needs to decide what type of endgame advantage she wants to go for. So I guess that's part of the reason, but it does seem that the game's not over enough to justify it. There's going to be too many other decisions that she needs to make later on, and she's going to wish she had some of that time.
Precisely. So maybe just simply bad time management at the moment?
Or lack of confidence, maybe because she's made some blunders in previous games.
Right.
You know, she said in the interview with Maurice, the first game she got into the time pressure, like, you know, Maurice was making fun of her time pressure, and she was like joking back with him that like she actually doesn't get into time pressure anymore.
Right.
So this is a little bit unusual for her, but it's kind of like a lot of things.